diving. Hope comes and stops us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Raw Recovery. My name is Dion Miller. I'm your host, and this is a Trudging Together podcast. Please check us out at www.trudgingtogether.com. You can find all of our episodes there, along with the daily reflections. And I apologize in advance. You might hear a little bit of noise in the background. I have a couple new kittens. That's the way life goes. So I started spreading my wings a little bit here and decided to start reaching outside of Colorado to get some of my speakers, because I kind of felt like we could bring some other recovery in. East Coast recovery is a little bit different sometimes. So the more people we can bring on, the more stories we hear, the better educated we are. So I met Drew through Wildcast, which I'm really enjoying. I found some great speakers there. So I'm really excited to have Drew on, because it'd be my first guest from Wildcast. How's that for Wildcast for giving you an in? You got to pay me $5 for that. Drew, welcome to the show, man. Thank you for taking your time.
Thanks, man. Honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. So let's go ahead and turn it into the Drew show. And I'm going to go ahead and give the reins on over to you. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and let's hear your story, man.
Yeah, so my name's Drew, and I'm a person in long-term recovery.
Hey, Drew. And, I can't help it.
Yeah.
Somebody says that, yeah. It's automatic. So
yeah. And started off, I guess the recovery journey started with some like somatic psychotherapy and a mentor guide there, and he pointed to the rooms, so I started going to the rooms. And and then that's where it took off and blossomed, and then and it's been quite the adventure.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up at, then?
Grew up in New Jersey, in central New Jersey. There is such a place. Sometimes that's debated. Yeah.
Okay. and were you pretty young when you started drinking, or?
And if I clear my throat occasionally, that might be a thing too, because I actually just was in the hospital last night for a minute. I got
oh man, are you okay, dude?
Yeah, I got food stuck in my throat.
Okay.
Or in my esophagus or whatever, so they had to
it's all scratchy and stuff. I'm sorry, man. All right.
Yeah.
So guys, if you hear him coughing, it's not corona. You're okay.
Yeah. No bong rips, nothing like that.
No, nothing like that. And my smoker's cough. So you guys can go ahead and let that go. But I'd like to hear a little bit about how you grew up, what your family dynamic was like. Were you an only child?
Yeah, so suburban central New Jersey. My sister's 4 years younger than me.
Okay.
And my folks, they're awesome people,
Okay.
But they
hey, we all have our parts. I know it's hard when we talk about parents. My mom's 37 years in recovery, and she listens to my stuff.
Oh, awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay. And I still talk about what I need to.
Yeah.
So I always clarify it, because I grew up in the 70s. I mean, the reason I'm screwed up is Phil Donahue's fault, not my parents. Okay? My parents were only doing the best that they could at the time, man. It's not their fault. So if you need to talk about your parents, now it's clarified that it is not your parents' fault, but this is how you grew up.
Yeah, no, totally. And like, it's taken me a long time to get to the place of acknowledging the impact of growing up in the family system that I did, without the blame and the shame and the resentment, and working through a lot of that. Because my folks are great people, and they did the best that they could with what they had. and they also both came from, dysfunctional family systems, we could say.
Yeah,
So
these are generational addictions that you and I are now at a stage where
yeah.
we're trying to break that generational cycle. We didn't
Mhm.
have the information back then that we do now.
Yeah,
We
no, not
didn't.
at all.
It was AA, and that was about it, man.
Yeah, yeah, and like neither of my folks are alcoholics or addicts. Like they appear, they blend into the normal pretty well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But
yeah,
we also
it
grew
just
up as kind of a, your kids are seen and not heard era too. Sometimes parents are
well,
that way.
yeah. I mean, my parents did all right. I think also, I mean, I'm pretty, I'm a pretty sensitive dude. I'm pretty like
Me too.
intuitive guy too.
Good for
Yeah.
you, man.
But that wasn't necessarily easy for parents that were not at all in tune with themselves or their emotions.
Sure.
So then, yeah, and it feels like it played a big part early on for
Okay.
me in what then manifested into the
Sure.
addiction and everything leading up. Being super intuitive, super sensitive, empathic, like being able to feel people's feelings,
Yeah.
but then they weren't in touch with their feelings or weren't willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, well, like I feel like you're sad, but when I say it's okay, don't be sad, then you get mad at me and tell me to mind my business. And so just create a lot of self-doubt early on.
It does. You know what? I never really thought of it that way either, because I always wondered too, and I would ask people, how are you doing? And most of the time they'd just tell me mind my own freaking business. And I had to learn to keep my mouth shut when it came to that, or find the right arenas, I guess, the right time, the right place and time, because I had to learn that too. But I think it makes it a little tough. I remember once I had seen some ballerinas, right? I loved it. I was like 7. And I went running to my parents. I said, I want to be a ballerina. They laughed at me, called me some choice names, but because, I said I was gay. And so what did that do to me? It made me not want to express my feelings, because I was afraid you were going to call me something that you had instilled in me that I thought was bad. Now I'm 50 years old and I have favorite transvestites. Now I'm a lot different, right? It doesn't bother me. I'm not homophobic. It, like today, it wouldn't bother me if somebody's like, are you gay? I'm like, no, but I'm be a good gay guy. I don't think so. That just doesn't bother me. But when you're growing up and that's what we're taught, and we're trying to break that cycle right there of men not being able to share their like right now the world is like, men, share your emotions. Do you want me to clear the room? Because everybody's going to run away if I start sharing my feelings.
Right. Well, and also sure, and also because in a lot of ways we're only encouraged for like more angry or loud emotions.
Yeah.
There's not. Yeah, there was zero support for like an emotional, like me being a super emotional kid. like I remember the one I like hurt my knee at a family gathering, and I came up and I'm like, I don't know, I'm like 8 and I scraped. Actually, it was like I still have the scar to the day.
Yeah.
But it was really bad, and I was just a kid and I was scared and emotional and it hurt, and they like laughed at me, the extended family all standing there.
Sure.
And then my grandfather said, well, at least we won't have to call the hospital because they definitely just heard you. So the ambulance is probably on the way already.
Man.
But there was zero space for an emotional. Really, in my family system, there was very little space for emotions in general.
Yeah.
But definitely not from a male.
I felt like it was, I was taught that it was okay for me to have anger feelings, but if I was sad, I wasn't allowed to have those.
Yeah, sure.
And so my sadness and my depression turned into anger, which turned into rage, which gave me a heart attack at 42, man.
Wow.
Emotion. People say feelings won't kill you, and I'm here to tell you bullshit. I call bullshit on that one, man. Come live a day in my head. It hurts. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your drinking career like, man? or drinking or drug? Was alcohol your preferred substance?
Well, I didn't have a preferred substance. I would bounce around. The
Okay.
way I like tricked myself was I would just switch anytime something became an issue. So then
Ah,
I didn't have a drinking problem, because then I would just go smoke pot, or then I would just go gamble, or I
okay.
just bounce around.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, but it turned out I had lots of problems.
Yeah, so
Um,
addicted to many, master of none. Kind of.
yeah, well, because I mean, really, the addictions just serve to numb some of the pain, some of the stuff we're
Yeah.
talking about. Growing up in the environment. So I
Mhm.
was, yeah, I would reach out to whatever could kind of take some of that weight, or that heaviness, or that kind of
Okay.
inner funkiness away.
Sure.
And so the first thing, or the first drinks were, I think I was like 13, 14.
Okay.
Um, and and just growing up in a family, watching like my dad and his uncles, or my uncle, getting hammered, and alcohol being a part of the fun family thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, but it tasted awful, but it wasn't about the taste. It was
Yeah.
like the effect, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, what's the impact?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and suddenly I wasn't that emotional. Yeah. I wasn't that emotional little boy anymore either. I kind of, at that point, I felt a little bit stronger, a little bit more reassured about myself. My self-esteem went up when I started drinking because I had liquid
right.
courage.
Yeah. For me, I was like, I didn't understand social dynamics.
Okay.
Like people were just like weird and didn't make sense to me, and I didn't know
Yeah.
how I was supposed to be with them. But then when I found it into drinking and smoking, it kind of turned off my inner monologue, inner BS.
Yeah.
And then I could just be like silly and goofy and wild and crazy, and then people loved it.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, here's the acceptance that I've been looking for. It's just
Mm-hmm.
I got to get a little little
Yeah, I
out
have
there,
to
a
have
little
a
tuned
little
up
bit
first.
more. And then we never deal with that, and it turns into
Yeah,
trauma is what
yeah,
it turns into because we don't deal with it and we go into our adult lives doing the same thing, you know. Um for me,
yeah. Lots of patterns.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it be, I did it with alcohol, I did it with drugs, women, to always,
Hmm.
the way I said is the prettier my girlfriend was, the better I was doing, things like that. And of course, once I got a pretty girlfriend, there's always prettier ones. And I would never commit to anything. If you came to me, if you even talked about an alcohol problem, we were done. I'm not, I'm like,
Nice.
I'm like, no, I'm not even good. Because in my mind, I'm like, you're not worth quitting drinking for. That's,
Right.
I knew better.
Yeah.
I knew I was destroying myself. So,
Yeah. See, I just got into like really dysfunctional ones and then didn't leave. So it wasn't like chasing pretty
okay.
girls. It was like, oh, okay, this relationship is going to provide me the perfect amount of invalidation and drama and chaos
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to, be able to blame something outside so that I
Yeah.
can keep in my pattern of behavior and
Yeah. Well,
recreate mom stuff.
well,
Yeah.
I did that. It's just I would move girlfriends so I could have new drama. Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice.
That's all it was. Because every relationship I had turned to shit because of my drinking. There
Yeah.
was always yelling, there was always screaming, there was always anger, kissing other girls, kissing other, there was I couldn't handle it, man.
No.
Um, and of course, also being a sensitive guy, I would tend to get a little jealous too.
Hmm.
Don't do that anymore. Um, but now I'm in a relationship where, I'm putting in too. So I don't have to worry about it, anymore
Nice.
because I'm also not putting myself in situations which would make me divert from, my wife. I don't
Hmm.
do that anymore. So,
Nice, man.
how old are you now?
I'm 40. I just turned 40.
40? Man, you
Yeah.
don't look it. You don't look it.
Uh,
You look younger. Just
Thanks, man. I'll take it. Yeah.
so, we had a little bit of dysfunction. Was there any kind of turning point in the drugs and alcohol where it started to get worse for you? You know how we start and then it gets more and we
Hmm.
need more and more to start to fill that up.
Yeah, it was. I would say as I learned that I could be more free and more wild and gain social acceptance and friends, that definitely fueled the drinking
Sure.
and the drug use. And then senior year of high school, like that girl was in the relationship, and so there's a big heartbreak.
Sure.
And then I learned that if I drank a lot, that the heartache went away too. And so between the like anxiety and the insecurity and the self-doubt, and now this heartbreak on top of it, I just that I kind of dove in full force. And and it was wild too, because that heartbreak was the first thing I had to deal with when I got clean, like
Wow.
years later. Yeah, it was like that trauma was inside of me, like that broken heart.
Yeah.
It just got numbed for years, but it never actually had a chance to heal.
Yeah. Well, and when it festers, that's when it starts to turn into resentments and things that it did, places that we don't belong, rage.
Yeah.
I don't think I've met a man that doesn't have some kind of anger problem. We all have one. And that doesn't have anything to do with drugs and alcohol. That has to do with the way we were raised. So there's unfortunately for you and I, we have certain factors though, where our brain makeup is just different, where, we get addicted to things, like it doesn't take much, but it really isn't the addiction. It's the filling up the hole in the heart that we're trying to do. So,
it's cool to see that become more and more of a commonplace understanding that like if you see addiction, it's not because there's something like screwed up about that person.
Absolutely.
It's like, there's something else going on that they're trying to deal with. Which is beautiful.
Yeah. And I think more and more people are, and when we put it that way, more and more people are understanding. My wife has said to me a couple of times, she's like, I kind of wish I was an alcoholic, but that's only because she sees the camaraderie and everything. What she doesn't understand is I paid a dear price for it.
Yeah, sure did.
I paid dearly for that. And I told her, I don't want you to have to pay the price for that. I don't. You can get it a different way. You can avoid the disaster that I went through. So what happened that made you decide that Drew had enough, man?
I was in Florida, and so 1,000 miles away from anybody I knew.
Okay.
And had pushed away everyone.
Okay.
Pushed away everybody that cared about me.
Did you move out there? Was that part?
Tell me.
Was that going to Florida? Was that part of your kind of like switching stuff, where you were going there to kind of get away from everybody? Is that why you did it?
That was my response to like an attempted intervention. It was okay. It was like a therapist guy and my parents, and they wanted to tell me that I was.
Our stories are so much alike. I ran to Cali, so.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So I took like a credit card with $1,000 limit and just disappeared. Just took off. I had a younger cousin who was just getting out of boot camp, and he was relocating.
Okay.
And so it was like, all right, cool. Let's go on an adventure.
Yeah. Okay.
He just didn't know that I was like a degenerate gambling drug addict.
Well, he would probably find out pretty quickly.
He did. Yeah, he did.
Yeah. We think it's funny because we think we're fooling people, and we are not fooling people. Nope.
Yeah.
People are too well educated. So you moved to Florida, you're hanging out with your cousin.
Yeah, well, we actually didn't hang out too much because I was deep into drugs and gambling, and he was just kind of like, he was just out of boot camp. He liked to drink, he liked to party and chase women. But I was like, I was over. I would just do lots of drugs by myself.
Yeah, you were party. Yeah, you were in party mode all the time.
Oh. Well, no, it was beyond that. It wasn't party mode anymore. It was like just do lots of drugs and be weird.
Okay.
And so anywho, so I wound up getting a DUI while I was down there.
Okay.
And in Florida, they lock you up for that. So I had to go kind of detox on a jail floor, drooling on myself. And
fun stuff.
And then the story that I tell is that I then called my folks, who I hadn't spoke to in months. They had no idea where I was or what was going on, because I needed to get bailed out, again for the whateverth time. And but it was like 4 a.m. So when they called, it was like that phone call that my mom had always talked about never wanting to get.
Yep, I know it well.
Yeah. And so I knew that. So I told, because the payphone wasn't working, so it was like a guard that was facilitating the phone call. And I'm like, look, can you just tell her like I'm alive and I'm okay before you launch into your spiel? And the guard's like, yeah. And so I could eavesdrop on the call.
Yeah.
And my mom picks up and she's like, half asleep. It's the middle of the night. And the guard goes right into like, oh, this is Officer such and such from blah, blah, blah county, da, 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 da. And then I hear my mom go, yeah,
Is he dead?
yes. Right. Yeah. Like I literally heard my mom preparing herself to receive the news that her son was dead.
And it's the empathy in you. You knew it was coming out of her mouth. Yeah.
But dude, like I heard the tone of her voice and it just like, it was a sucker punch in the gut. And that was probably like,
that was killed me, man.
Yeah, bro. That's what cracked
that one. Yeah. For sensitive guys like us.
Yeah.
Man, when we hurt other people, especially our mommies.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
I don't even want to fathom it anymore. I love my mom.
Yeah.
So, man. And I can see it. You guys, you don't have the benefit of seeing, but you can see it in his eyes how hard that was. Man, so that made you change your mind?
I still got high for a while after that because I didn't know what to do.
All right,
like
that's fair.
But it was that moment where it was like, okay, shit, like this is not it. We gotta figure something.
So you were coming to the realization that what you were doing just wasn't the right thing anymore.
Yeah, it was in that moment, and also while I was drooling on the floor, where I'm
that helps too. Yeah.
Like, how did my life get here? Like, what happened? I was the kid with like all the potential and people liked me, and now I'm drooling on myself and listening to my mom's like heartbreak. And I'm like, man,
in oranges.
Yeah. With flip-flops. Oh, that was a scary moment too, man. When they like said, "Give me your clothes," I'm like, "Oh shit! This isn't just like getting taken down to the station. This is like
you're going to jail.
I could be here."
Was that the first time that you were in jail?
That was the first time they came. Yeah, for the clothes. I'd like spend the night for I've been locked up.
Okay, so you had done some overnights. Was that the last time you were in jail? Good.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah,
that was enough.
You got kind of clean. I got a kind of a clean break. So you're still getting high.
So that's Florida.
Now something's happened. You had a tiny little spiritual experience.
Yeah. I wouldn't have said it was spiritual then.
No.
It was just like I couldn't pretend that it was a dumpster fire anymore.
Yeah, there wasn't any more. There wasn't anywhere else left to hide. You'd run out of excuses. How do you? What reason can you come up with your mom? But now she's not waiting on that phone call anymore. So let's because I want to hear what happened and why you got sober. So I'm going to shut up a little bit and let you talk on that.
Oh, you're good. Yeah. So that happened. I wound up going back to Jersey. Like I said, got high for a little bit longer because I knew I wanted to do something different, but I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
And then that's when I connected with, he's just a therapist, but he was like so much more than that for me. He was like a mentor and a guide and a teacher. And so he introduced me to like, we call it somatic psychotherapy.
Yep.
So a very body focused psychotherapeutic experience.
Yeah.
Which was cool because it wasn't just me on the couch, like, talking BS. It was like, all right, we're going to like connect with your body and feel things and do stuff. And then he told me, then he recommended the rooms, you should probably check out these meetings. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
What a smart therapist.
Yeah, he's a great dude. So grateful. Yeah. And it was cool too, because I'm like, all right, I'll go check it out. But we had talked a lot about like Buddhist stuff and spiritual stuff.
Okay.
And so at that point, like I'm ready to not do drugs anymore, but I still don't want to deal with the world and want to run away from everything.
Got it. Okay, sure.
And so he offered, he's like, look, if you get a year clean, going to those meetings and stuff, I'll hook you up with my friends who, are like, one of the guys was at a monastery, one of the guys worked at a retreat center. He was like, look, I'll plug you into that.
Yeah.
Um,
What a fair
so,
deal,
and
man. Yeah.
yeah, it was cool. Then the phrase was, I'll introduce you to people of the past if you go do the meetings for a little bit and, get either
Exactly, and help you find your passion and then put you there. That's what I do too. So I already love your therapist.
Yeah. So yeah, so he so then I started going to the meetings.
Okay.
And I went to like one, and he's like, no, you have to go to more than one. And I'm like, all right, I'll go to a couple. And then I was really blessed to meet some guys around my age and some old timers. It was like, all right. And I remember sitting in the meeting one time, and like the 12 steps were on a piece of cardboard.
Okay.
And I just like read down them, and it wasn't like cognitive or intellectual, but I just read them, and something in me was just like, ooh, like there's something here. Like that's a thing.
Okay.
And so
you were being a sponge, you were being teachable.
Yeah, I do student well. I do, so
good for you. I haven't heard it said that way in a while. So I like talking to people on the East Coast, man. They got different ways of saying things, and I love it.
Yeah, so I went, and then 6 months in, I'm going to meetings every day, got a sponsor, step work, I totally, usually I'm the one that like serves the Kool-Aid, not like drinks it, but I'm totally in, and yeah, and it dawns on me in a meeting, I'm like, oh, holy shit, like these are people of the past.
Yeah.
Like I thought I was going to meetings to then go meet like Buddhist monastery guys, but here I was surrounded by people that are invested in their own healing and awakening and recovery and learning to embody spiritual principles. And it just, and so the next time I saw the therapist guy, I'm like, dude, you tricked me.
Yeah, he did.
You knew.
Yeah.
He claims to this day that he didn't, like, he still offered, when I had a year clean, he offered to send me.
Yes.
But at that point I kind of found my groove and was like, all right, no, like this is what I'm looking for. He
did, but you know how we are. We don't like to take credit. Yeah, we're humble people.
Well,
he did. I agree with you.
Speak for yourself on that. Yeah, my
humility to be humble.
Yeah, okay, that works.
All right. See, there's that East Coast keeping it honest thing, man. See, that's what I love. Yeah. I mean, then you came in, you were willing, you were open-minded, and it was about finding where Drew was comfortable in sitting down to be able to talk with somebody about what was going on. In this case, it was a therapist. I call them accountability buddies. So you felt accountable to him, which is why I think it may have worked. What were you saying, man?
I wouldn't say it was necessarily accountability. It was like, for years, for most of my life, I would say stuff and people would, family or whoever would disagree or tell me why I was wrong. And my mom's side's all Irish Catholic, and so everybody's got to be right and have the last word. And it's like warfare. But this guy just like listened, and I would say the things that other people had judged me for, and that I already had like pre-planned defenses, why it wasn't wrong or it might be right. But I would just say stuff, and he'd be like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah.
And then he would ask questions, and then he would share from his own experience.
Yeah.
And so it felt like it was the first time I was somewhere that I could be myself, and someone was actually open to like hearing what I was actually interested in,
or they wanted to hear what you said, because they wanted their intention was to help you. And a therapist and a counselor doesn't solve your problems. You solve your own problems. I don't care where you go. You solve your own problems. But what they can do is help you get to that place.
Yeah. The good guides, just help us learn how to access our own perspective and wisdom.
And I think that's a good way to put it, is they're more of a guide than they are a therapist. And my therapist I think he just agrees with everything that I say. Yeah, Dion, you are right. Why are they not listening to you? But that's how he got me. In, so he could help me discover that I had PTSD. Because when I first started going to him, my anxiety had hit. This was a few years ago. And And this is when my PTSD started coming up. I isolating at home, couldn't go out, not Dion, couldn't work.
Mhm.
And so therapists are great about doing that. He brought me in, made me feel comfortable talking about myself so that he could approach me with the fact that I had something else that I had to deal with. And
Mhm.
now I can deal with that today.
Yep.
And
Nice,
now,
man.
yeah, I can't imagine that, especially, and I don't want to make us like terminally unique or anything, but guys that are a little bit more emotional, we tend to go through more emotional stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that would be the right thing. And we need places for that,
Mhm.
um, without having to worry
Mhm.
about it. And that's what I love about AA. That's what I love about recovery, because I'm an AA guy, love AA, but it's not the only way, man. You got
No.
sober through a therapist. Some people I mean, I don't care how you got sober or why. It's good enough for me, man.
Yeah. Especially nowadays in the like many multiple pathways and harm reduction, like it's so much wider. And
Yeah,
for me, like I would probably identify as at the core as a 12 stepper. Like
sure.
the therapist guy turned me on and then I totally dove in and but since then it's become yoga and meditation and plant medicine and a whole bunch of other stuff. But
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
but
it's
the whole
yeah, I
point
was just
is
gonna
to continue growing. It says in the 12 steps,
right.
now get out of the freaking rooms and go help people.
Right. For me, the 12 steps is the vehicle for the spiritual awakening, and then we live, live embodied spiritual principles. So it's like, you know,
Fantastic. Yeah.
yeah.
No, and that's it, and I love sitting down with like-minded guys, because all this stuff can seem very confusing or overwhelming, and what we're doing is we're simplifying it for them.
Mhm.
And that's how we can help when nobody else can, is because we talk in layman's terms.
Mhm.
If I came on here and started talking SUD, nobody know what I was talking about. You do,
Yeah.
but half the people right now are still waiting for me to tell them what it is. It's
Yeah.
substance use disorder. It's a new way of saying drunk or alcoholic. Uh,
It's the fancy new term.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the new 3-letter acronym that we have. I'll just stick with drunk. Thanks. Substance use disorder makes me feel dirty, man. It makes me feel like I have more, like there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe I've just gotten used to calling myself an alcoholic, and that's what I
Mhm.
prefer. Who knows? I'm just
Yeah.
old.
Well, and I also know, yeah, I mean, I love it, and I got brought into, the 12 steps, like right at the end of the time where like you clean the ashtrays. And if they wanted to know how to
Okay.
get high, they told you, and you needed to sit down and shut the up
Yeah.
and just so I got a dose of that, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like in complementary with some of the people I was hanging with and the therapist, I was able to receive, all of it.
Yeah.
If the only thing I had was some like 60-year-old, guy hollering at me, I don't know if I would have hung out. But
Yeah. Well, and
yeah.
thankfully AA is making that change. The people in AA are starting to realize that it is important for newcomers to talk.
Hmm.
Um, when
Hmm.
I first started attending AA meetings in 1989, you didn't get to talk till you had 30 days. And
Wow.
they weren't nice about it either.
Yeah.
Hi, guys. You guys
Yeah.
think this is how they would say it. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Shut up and listen. You don't know anything. That right?
Yeah.
But I needed that at that time. But I am different. A lot of people don't need that. They need to know that they're comfortable, you know.
Hmm.
Like for me, I guess I've just been doing it long enough that when somebody talks to me that way, I can depict out where their intentions are and what I need from that. Because I know that
Nice.
God talks through other people,
Hmm.
so we can be open-minded enough to still pick those things out of what's good for us.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm glad that everybody's kind of recognizing that addiction and mental health are a lot alike, but they are two separate issues. So let's stop lumping them.
Yeah.
So what's it like for you today, man?
A lot easier than it used to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you married?
No. That might be part of the reason why. No, I'm kidding. Um, no, it's like easier to be me on a regular basis now, and I feel like that's the that was the goal, or that's become the goal. Um,
do you feel like you're becoming the person that you should have been, could have been, would have been?
I feel like I'm becoming less of a person.
Okay. Why is
and
that?
more, well, I don't know. The words are silly sometimes, but I feel
Okay.
like I'm less of like a person with all the baggage of being a person, and
Okay.
it's much more like a present oriented experience.
Got it. Okay.
So and then I have like small relapses into the story of Drew and all his drama and bullshit and blah blah blah.
Sure.
But for the most part, there's a lot more time spent here and now with whatever this is, as whoever I am, and
Yeah.
it's got like a grace and a peace to it, which is nice.
And I think probably the biggest difference for me is like a year ago, I wouldn't have been, or when I was a year sober, I wouldn't have been able to sit here and even have this conversation with you. Being able to just be in the moment, all of me in this moment with Drew right now. And that's what I love about the program is I'm able to do that now.
That's it. Some fourth dimensional experience going
there
on.
You go, man. It's almost like we know what we're talking about. Of course, now that I said that, we know nothing.
Right.
Drew, I've had a great time talking to you, man. This was a good conversation.
Yeah.
If you ever want to come on and talk about some of the if you want to sit down and talk about some of the things that men go through in men's mental health, things like that. I love talking to other guys that have emotions, because you end up having very, very raw conversations.
Yeah, love it, man.
So
yeah, all about it.
You are always welcome back. Do you have any parting words of wisdom?
Just be easy. Just be gentle on yourself. This recovery thing is or healing or awakening or whatever we call it. It's not an easy process, but it's so cool. It's definitely better than the alternative.
It's not an easy process, but this life definitely becomes easier than chasing the hooch, man.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, my life is definitely a lot easier. There's no other word. It is a lot easier today. God has restored me to sanity. Which is great. The want or need to try and fill that hole up is gone, and it's just not there anymore. So that allows, now that I'm free, what you were talking about, now that I'm free of the baggage, now I can spread my wings and do what it is that I need to do. So, Drew, thank you for being on, man. Thank you, Wildcast, for helping me find Drew. Thank you, God. Let's give credit where credit is due. Give it to God. So,
absolutely.
All right, all my listeners, thanks for being here. I love you guys. And what I kind of took out of this is there is no one way to recovery. Give yourself a chance. And that's kind of what Drew was saying at the end there. Be nice to yourself, especially in the beginning. In fact, if you're going to be nice to anybody, be nice to yourself. It's not your fault you have a disease. It's not. You're going to take responsibility for your actions, part of what we do, but it's not your fault. So don't put more on you than you need to. Quit beating up on yourself. I know that's a lot easier to say, but if you start with you, it'll end with you, and you'll turn out great, man. Trust me. You will find a person that you never even would have thought of. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. We will see you on Friday for our podcast. In the meantime, listen to our daily reflections, www.trudgingtogether.com. You can find us at Trudging Together on Facebook, Instagram, all the other crap. that we have to utilize to get this to you. Thanks for being here. I love you guys. Peace out and have a day.